Hi guys, welcome back. So today we're starting a new section which is 9.3 and which is curvature and component of acceleration. Okay, so in this chapter, let's start off first with unit tangent vector. Okay, so this is the curve traced out by a vector function. So this r of t represents a vector function. Okay, so and how do you find the velocity vector function given r of t is the vector function? So what do? You take the derivative of it, right? So r prime of t represents the velocity vector function. Velocity vector function. Okay? And so what does it represent? It represents a tangent vector to any point in time. Okay, a tangent vector to the curve at any point in time. So all these vectors are tangent to the curve and represents the velocity vector function. Okay, so all these are velocity vectors. Okay, so then how do you calculate for unit tangent vector? So as you guys know from linear algebra, that how do you calculate the unit vector? So to calculate the unit vector like we did in linear algebra, what did we do? We simply take the vector itself and then we divide it by the norm of the vector to get the unit vector. Okay, so we will do the same thing with the tangent vector. Okay, so we have the tangent vector r prime of t. So we need to calculate for the unit tangent vector. So we will take the r prime of t, the vector itself, and divide it by the norm of it. Okay, so dividing by the norm of it. So this gives us the unit tangent vector, rt. So this is the formula to calculate the unit tangent vector. You take the derivative of the vector function and then take the magnitude of the vector function. So the tangent vector over the norm of the tangent vector gives the unit tangent vector. And as written here, the unit tangent vector represents the direction in which the curve is moving at a particular point. So it represents the direction that the curve is moving. So just like the tangent vector, however, the norm of it is 1, which indicates its length. Okay, so here, let me use a different color. I'm using green for RT. I mean the t vector, the unit tangent vector. So here, the tangent vector would point in the same direction. However, the norm of it will be 1 because it's a unit tangent vector. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Let's move on and let's just do a problem now. Okay. All right. So let's do this problem. R of t. So you're given a vector function r of t square root of 2 cosine of t I hat plus sine of t g hat plus sine of t k hat. Okay, so you're given this vector function and you're asked to find the unit tangent vector. Okay, so how do you do this first? So as I said here, how do you do it? So you're given a vector function, right? So your first step is to take the derivative of this vector function. Okay, so let's just take the derivative of this vector function. And you guys remember taking the derivative of a vector function? If you don't, then check out my video on taking the derivative of a vector function. I've provided the link in the description below. Okay, let's continue with this problem. Okay, so we take the derivative of a vector function component by component. So here, this is I hat, this is G hat, and this is K hat. So we take it, so first we take the derivative of the I hat, and then the G hat, and then the K hat. Okay, so let's start. So first we're taking the derivative of this. So So for taking the derivative of cos and sine, just remember these two and you should be good. Okay, so just remember the derivative of sine of x is cosine of x, and the derivative of cos x is negative sine x. Okay, if you know this, then you should be good for this problem. Okay, what's the derivative of cos x or cos t? Cos of x or cos of t doesn't matter. The parameter doesn't matter. It's just the same thing. Okay, so it's negative sine. Okay, so here the constant doesn't change. Okay, so then here it's gonna be negative sine of t I hat. Now moving on to the j hat component. What's the derivative of sine t? It is cos t, so plus cos t j hat. And again, the derivative of sine t, which is cos t k hat. Okay, so this is r prime of t. Okay, so we just calculated for r prime of t. Okay, now what's the next step? Next step is to take the norm of this r prime of t, the tangent vector, right? Okay, so let's just take the norm of this. And do you remember taking the norm of it? Okay, if you don't, then let me just recall that you take the square, you square each component. So just like that, squaring each component plus cos t squared, and then you square root the whole thing. Okay, so this is how you do it. Okay, so the square root and square cancels out, so it's just going to be 2, and then sine squared of t plus cos t squared, which is going to be cos squared of t, and then cos squared of t. Okay, now we just need to simplify it a little further. Okay, you see here cos squared of t, cos squared of t 2 times, so you can just write it 2 cos squared of t, and then 2 sine squared of t, which was already there, and not forgetting the square root. Okay, moving on. To simplify this further, you guys need to know a trig identity. So the trig identity is sine squared of x plus cos squared of x is equals to 1. Okay, and again, x and t doesn't matter, it's just a variable, so you can here it can be any variable, doesn't matter. Here it's t. Okay, so here you can replace this with this trig identity, but first we need to factor out the 2 first. Okay, so factoring out the 2 gives us sine squared of t plus cos squared of t. Okay, and then square rooting the whole thing. Okay, so now you can use this trig identity here, which will be replaced with 1, because this whole thing ends up being 1, and times it by 2, then square rooting it. So 2 times 1 is simply 2, so square root of 2, it's going to be the norm of this, the norm of the vector function, the velocity vector function. Okay, so this, okay, but we're not done yet. What we were finding the unit tangent vector. We have these 2 things, and now it's just to divide, the next step is just to divide these 2. Okay, so here, this is here r prime of t, and square root of t is here. So let's just write everything together. So r of t, okay, so what's r of t? So it's r prime of t, r prime of t over r prime of t norm is equals to negative square root of t sine t I hat plus cos t j hat plus cos t k hat over the r prime of t, the norm, which we just calculated above here, the square root of t. Okay, so then square root of t. So this is the answer, and this is the velocity, the unit tangent vector. Okay. Okay, so, and if you want to verify the r prime of t, so here, square root of 2 sine t plus cos t plus cos t. So square root of 2 sine t cos t cos t. So this is the how we calculate the unit tangent vector. If you guys have any question, let me know in the comments. So that was it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Bye.